Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Caregiver and Spoonie podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Banderas. And before we get started, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of the podcast. And once again, thank you for all your emails, your feedback, your support, all the new listeners, all the new supporters on the page, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well, and TikTok. So I like how this is growing. I really like it, and I really appreciate it. But let's get into today's episode. Now, on today's episode, like it says on the title, we have to take ownership. Now, this happened to me, and when I heard about it, like how we have to take ownership of everything that happens in our lives, I was like, why do we have to take ownership when what's happening in our lives is not what we want? You know what I'm saying? Like, this happens to Spoonies, this happens to pretty much everybody, and especially with current events, that everything that's happening, I mean, who wants to take ownership of that? Absolutely nobody. So this is what research suggests right now. Like, the reason why we have to take ownership now, it says taking responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and life can feel challenging, which it is. I mean, it happened to me. I'm pretty sure that's how it feels for you. And it says it requires a willingness to learn from your mistakes. That's one thing that a lot of us don't want to do. I feel myself included on that. To own your successes and failures, and to stop blaming others for your circumstances. But taking ownership of your life also builds character, grit, and self-respect. Now, this is very important. The reason why it's very important is because, like I mentioned, like, I used to feel like I didn't have to take responsibility for anything happening in my life. Like, the way that I was raised, the way that I was treated, like, I was always blaming it on everybody, like my mom, my uncle, my family, pretty much. That's pretty much the way that I grew up, literally my entire life until I met my wife. Like, I was always blaming it on somebody else. Like, it was never my fault. Like, I was always right, I was never wrong. And when I started reading more about, like, self-development and how I can help my wife or how I can become a better person, I came across Jocko Willing. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he has a book called Extreme Ownership, where pretty much it talks about, like, how you have to take ownership of everything that happens in your life. Because the reason why and how this can help you is that when you take ownership, you literally have two options. When you take ownership, you either don't do anything about it and just let it happen, or when you take ownership and say, like, you know what, this is my problem, this is this is something that I need to change. You have to make a decision to literally find the solution for the challenge, to come up on top of whatever is challenging. It could be the way that you were raised because of trauma, depression. There's a lot of things. Like, you're a Spoonie, you're having some kind of illness, like chronic illness, mental illness, whatever it is that you're facing. If you don't take responsibility, pretty much what it means is that you don't want to deal with it. This is how I feel with in my case. Let me give you a little bit of context in regards to what I'm trying to say. Like, in my situation, I was diagnosed with PTSD. I was abused pretty much my entire life, physically, financially, emotionally, and I was always blaming it on everybody. Like, when I was trying to date somebody and she and the other person wouldn't do something for me, I will feel offended because I will feel entitled, that because of the way that I was raised, the way that I was treated, I needed to be treated a certain way. So when I had to go to therapy, in order for me to be able to become a better husband for my wife, one of the things that happened is that I realized, like, shit, I have to take ownership of everything that happened. And in order for you to take ownership, you have to realize that, for one, depending on what you have to deal with, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you were raised by abusive parents, or that you have a chronic illness. But what it is your fault, and this is the way that I understand it from my perspective, is that if you stay there and you don't want to improve yourself, you don't want to look for a solution or work to feel better, or do something to actually get better from whatever you're dealing, then at that point it becomes your fault. Like you need to take responsibility and say, like, hey, you know what, I don't want to deal with this, I'm just gonna let it be. Yes, I have this chronic illness, or I'm having all of these issues, and I don't want to deal with it, but I don't blame it on anybody else. Be responsible of it, and just say, like, I don't want to deal with it, because I actually have said that before. Like, you know what, I don't want to deal with it. But the problem when you say like, I don't want to deal with it, and you start blaming it on other people, or you find excuses to not deal with it, then the problem is always going to come back. And when you do something like that, the problem is not going to go away. The problem is always going to follow you around, whatever it is. It could be your chronic illness, like PTSD, depression. All of these things are going to follow you. Like, they're not going to leave you alone just because you don't want to deal with it. That's the problem. That's one of the things that happens to people, and it happened to me for so long, because for years my family said, like, oh, you need to go to therapy. But the way that they approached it, it was like, oh, you need to go to therapy because you're crazy. And I was like, oh, fuck no, I'm not crazy. It's all on you guys. This is the way that you guys treated me, and this is the way that you guys raised me. So I didn't want to deal with it. And then like my wife got sick. I was diagnosed with PTSD because of what happened. And I have mentioned this, the reason why I was or the reason that I was diagnosed with PTSD. I have talked about it. I'm not going to talk too much about it anymore, or on this episode at least. But somebody stole my wife's pills that made me go into a rage, and then that literally let me see that I needed help. So I had to deal with it. And the thing is that when you take ownership, of whatever is going on, you literally have to say to yourself, like, what do I want to do? Do I want to keep suffering, keep blaming others, and understand that the problem is not going to go away? Or in this case, you can just turn around and say, like, you know what, I'm going to deal with this shit. I'm going to see what the hell is going on. I'm going to see what caused the problem. I'm going to try everything in my power to get better. I'm going to try everything in my power to get better. I'm going to make sure that I can control whatever is going on. Like in my case, it was PTSD, and I was angry. I was extremely angry. Like I that's why I did the blog, because I wanted to explain my story. So the blog, it's on YouTube if you ever want to listen to it. But that's why I did that. I mean, with me in this situation, like, I was extremely angry. So I was very, very snappy, ready to fight. I was on fight mode all the time, and I never wanted to deal with it. I was just like, you know what, that's the way that I am. But then obviously with the PTSD, when I got the diagnosis, I was like, okay, maybe I have to deal with it, you know, like, and it's not easy. I'm not gonna lie, because you have to deal with things that you have put under the rug for so long that you don't know what you're going to find, pretty much. It could be like trauma so hidden that you didn't even know it was there. It could be things about yourself that you didn't even like, and you just put them under the rug. But it's something that at one point either you have to deal with it, or it's just gonna boil over and it's gonna explode. That's one of the things that I can tell you. Like, it happened so many times to me where I just kept putting things under the rug, like under the rug, everything under the rug, and then I will trip over it. I will get mad, and then I will snap. I will snap at my mom. I will snap at my family. I will snap at my wife. But now, one of the things I can tell you, because I took ownership and I take ownership of my, or what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, I can actually have better conversations. I can connect with people. I can actually understand people better, because I don't take anything personal now. When you take ownership of your thoughts, one of the things and it takes time to get to understand that. Like, one of the things that happened to me is that, you know what, I used to think that everybody will talk shit about me, but when you take ownership of your thoughts, because that's pretty much what my mind will tell me, is like, oh, they're talking shit about you. But when you take ownership of your thoughts, you start to realize, like, you know what, they're not talking about me. It's just that I feel offended because of my trauma. So I'm not gonna pay attention to them. If they're talking about me, I don't care. I don't need to know what they're talking about. Like, you become a different person. And the main thing with this is that it can help you by you literally being free, because you understand that you have a problem. And then when you understand that you have a problem, and you understand and you take ownership of that problem, the next step is to find a solution, so you don't have to suffer literally all the time, or you don't have. And yes, it's gonna be hard. It's a long road to recovery. Literally, it's a long road to recovery. It's not gonna be easy. Like, it took me, like, I went to therapy for like year and a half or a little bit more, so I know it can be hard. And depending on your trauma or whatever you're suffering right now, it can be even harder. So you have to be patient. It's not gonna be like, it's not gonna change like right away, just because you say, like, you know what, I'm gonna take ownership. Because you still have to do research. You have to look deep inside yourself, so you can actually figure out what's happening inside of you, so you can actually say, you know what, I found the problem, now it's time for me to find a solution. And when it comes to like chronic illnesses and things like that, again, if your doctor is not helping you, if your doctor is not giving you the answers that you need, there's so much information right now online. You have if you have a smartphone, computer, or anything that lets you connect online and do research, you can do it. You don't feel dumb because you don't know what to look for. Just start looking about you start googling your symptoms, start googling your condition, or whatever the doctor says, so you can have more information, because the doctor might not know everything. But if you know more than the doctor, and I have made an episode about this before, you can actually help them understand you a little bit more. Like, you can say, like, hey, I did this research. I took ownership of this. So I did this research, and this is what I found. I want you to look at it. If they want to look at it, good. If they don't, I mean, at least you still are doing your job, which is taking care of yourself by doing your own research. That's pretty much what matters. Now, another thing about taking ownership is that you literally have to rewire your brain. Like, you have to rewire your brain, because, like, in my case, from my perspective, like, I will blame everything on anybody else. So that becomes a habit. Like, we have bad habits because of the way that we were raised. Like, the way that I was raised wasn't like the best way, for me at least. So I will blame it on everybody else. I wouldn't take responsibility for my actions, for what I said, for anything, literally. So I will blame it on the other person. Like, if somebody will make me mad, I will snap, and I will say things that then I will later regret, but then I will blame it on the person. Now I take responsibility, and because when you take responsibility, what you have to do is pretty much you have to realize that you were in the wrong. That takes a lot of effort, to be honest, especially when you're like deflecting it on all the time. So you have to literally rewire your brain. You have to take steps, literally. Like, it's almost like a 12-step program, but in this case it can take longer than that, because it's not easy to change those habits. That's why I'm saying, like, you have to rewire your brain. And when you try to blame somebody else, like somebody hurt you, and then let's say best case scenario, or like the example that I've been seeing with my friends and online all the time right now, like somebody's dating somebody, the one of the person in the relation one of the people in the relationship hurts the other person, and then the person that gets hurt starts dating somebody else, but then the person that starts dating somebody else hurts the other person, not knowing it, because it's like, you know what, I'm blaming them. And sometimes they say this, sometimes they're like, oh, it's because of my ex, they hurt me, so I'm on the defense, and they don't take responsibility for that because they don't want to deal with the pain. That's the thing, is like, you have to rewire your brain so you can deal with the pain of wherever you're dealing. It could be, like I said, the illness, it could be the feelings, it could be the emotions, it could be like so many things that could be causing that pain. And when you take ownership, literally, it's like, for me at least, it was like taming a rabid dog. Like, that's how it feels for me. Like, I was like, no. Like, I had to train my rabid dog so I can rewire my brain and I can actually take responsibility. So in case my dog will try to bite somebody, I can tame it and be like, hey, calm down, buddy. I'm here for you. You know? So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. And that's why we have to take ownership of anything in your life, because like I mentioned also, per the research, and I can see it in myself, and I asked this to my wife, and it does build character, it does build grit, and it does build self-respect, because when you snap at people, when you do things that later you regret because you don't want to take responsibility, deep inside you might not see it that way, but deep inside you might feel bad about it. And that's some of the things that happened to me. Now that I can tame or control my rabid dog, I can be like, this actually feels good. I'm becoming a better person. I can talk better. I don't get mad because somebody says something, you know. Like, it's kind of rewarding because it shows you how much you are growing. But that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. And again, if you want to follow us, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. If you want to share your story anonymously, you can send it to me at the Caregiver and Spoonie@gmail.com. You can also post it on the community on Facebook. And again, thank you for your time. I really like how the community is growing. Let's make this grow so we can support each other. And I leave you like always. As always, take care of yourself and have a good day.